August 28th meeting of the Mendon Board of Health. We have two items on the agenda this evening. First is a small issue with our trash hauler, E.L. Harvey. We have a representative from E.L. Harvey. Why don't you come up and take a seat, please? Could you sign it also, please?
Thank you.
For those who aren't aware of what the issue might be, it was just over a year ago we changed trash haulers from Republic Services to E.L. Harvey from Westboro. The service from Republic Services was dwindling and we weren't satisfied. I think we got a lot of complaints from residents and it was time for a change. For this 1 year, it's been pretty, I'm going to call it great. The results and the feedback from all the residents. We were fortunate to get a driver that was doing the town for many, many years, that was driving for Republic Services, and he went to E.L. Harvey, so it was a transition that was very smooth. Phil knows the town, does a wonderful job. I don't think we've had any complaints about Phil with his service. The issue that comes up is when Phil goes on vacation, which he's entitled to. There is a driver it's not just one driver. They're what they call a swing driver that takes the route when a man goes on vacation. That's when the issue shows up, because people, although the trash is supposed to be out at 7 a.m., it's on the website, it's on the bill, and your day of pickup, trash should be curbside by 7 a.m. Phil does the route the same way he's been doing it for many years. People get accustomed to that and they embrace it. So they know if the trash truck comes by 10 o'clock, they can get it out by 10. With the swing driver on, he may do the town a little bit different roads, different turns, and he may go down that road and the trash is not out. So that's one issue, not a big one, something we have to address. The concern is a suggestion that I have for E.L. Harvey, and maybe you have something to enlighten us on this. Is it possible that Phil could sit down with you, your IT department, somebody, and create a map of every turn, every street, every right, every left, exactly how he runs the town, and print it, so that when you have a swing driver, you hand it to the swing driver and say, this is how we would like the town picked up. Do not deviate from this route. And I think that may help alleviate any of the issues. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, we do, and I think we can do that. But when I stopped in the other day to drop off a shops container, if I'm not mistaken, we have every address that is being serviced by the town, Missy. So if you could give me those, I can then put them right into our system. It'll eliminate her from having to do a shut-off list, because we'll be able to turn them on or off right on the tablet, and then we'll set the tablet up exactly the way he does it, as we do with all our subscription work, because I didn't realize you had the addresses. One of our other town, Rentham, has the same thing, where you know exactly where the residents, like Milford is tax-based, so there's no, we can't get that address. With the amount of residents we pick up, I can easily put it on a tablet. You send me the addresses and I can get that all uploaded into our system, and going forward the tablet will tell the driver where to start. He'll be able to check them off, and he'll know exactly which ones are on, no pickup list, so it'd even be easier for that. But I think that, after talking the other day and realizing that we can do this with addresses, and I did speak to Chris, who's our IT guy, and he says that's an easy fix for us if I can get the addresses for us. So, and then the next time Phil goes on vacation, it'll be seamless, because
It's not going to be till like next spring or something, right?
I think I canceled all the rest of them for this year and going through the spring for him. So that's all set. But it truly is. I mean, he does a great job. As when I had Milford on vacation last week, every time the driver goes on vacation, it's always that little bit of deviation. But with the tablet, where I'll have the advantage on this one, I'll be able to do it turn by turn, and there'll be no deviation from the route. Where in Milford, you can look at a route, you can tell somebody where to start, but trying to draw those out, and then the driver trying to read that as he's doing the route. Once you get the map and you get in the area, he may decide to do a shorter span, because the regular driver may know how to do the Ys better, because then you turn around and do everything one-sided. So where Phil knows the town so well, he won't get lost. As the other day where we were up in that one section off of
Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent, and the driver that I had out there got confused. He went around the circle one way, and we got to the top, forgot to go back. So the next day I came out and I cleaned that up because it happens. And so that's kind of where we are. But with the turn by turn and having the house numbers, he'd be able to click them right off. So he would be able to look at his tablet and see that they weren't checked off. So I think that'd be an easy one.
Republic Services did not have the availability of the tablets, and with the tablet, that was one of the things that we embraced when we went with E.L. Harvey.
Yep.
Your driver has direct communication with your dispatch office with the push of a button, and he can service the tablet.
The other real nice thing is that we have what's called a third eye. So on his residential truck, he runs 5 cameras all day long. They just run continuously. If there's something that's an issue, he can push a button and he'll snap a picture of every camera. But if we get an issue, if Missy calls up and requests something at a certain house, as long as we have the approximate time, we can then request from Third Eye, and they'll send us the video of if there was an issue. So all day long, 24 hours a day, that video is running, and we can request up to about a week back. So if we get something that's even a week old, if we can get that address, it doesn't rewrite itself until about a week, and then it rewrites itself. So we've used the Third Eye for other issues. So the technology that E.L. Harvey has compared to, Republic Services, as big as they were, is night and day, and it's just amazing what we can pull.
That Third Eye has come in handy on situations. The truck that you guys use is one truck for both trash and recycling.
Correct.
And Missy has received phone calls from people saying, I separated all my recycling and the man just dumped it in the trash. So they go on the camera and they see that Phil actually is separating it just to show we're doing the job correctly, and that's a huge help.
Yep. Yeah, it actually has, one of the cameras is actually in the hopper. So if we dump something, if it was an automated container, or we dump something like somebody's throwing away a battery in the trash and they got the container there, and he dumps it and you don't see it, the minute it hits the hopper, he can tag that picture with the little button, and now we can see what the resident's throwing away, and he'll GPS it and tell us what the address is. So there's a lot of technology sitting there. And like I said, I apologize for the vacations. I mean, it was kind of a Thursday and Friday was kind of a big mess, so it shouldn't have happened. We should have been able to clean up the messes we had from Thursday and Friday, and it just didn't fall into place right. But going forward, I think now if I can get the addresses, I can fix this pretty easy.
I hope so.
Yep.
If you could just take a minute, could you speak to the quality of the recycling? Are people doing their due diligence? Is it being okay? Percentages?
It's
Be honest.
I was just going to say that.
all right. So being honest, no. Having been out here last week, because all the misses that I got, I actually came out myself to make sure that Mendon was covered, because I know the last 2 vacations we've had some issues. So what's happening is,
Excuse me, when you say you came out yourself, you actually come out in another truck?
oh yeah, I took another truck out. Oh yeah, to chase the misses and make sure everything was cleaned up, and I actually drove one of the trucks to make sure we were good. And seeing what they're putting out, so many people, we've gotten to the point where everything has to be cleaned, rinsed, and dry. And that's just not happening. I mean, if your ketchup or your mayonnaise jar or anything like that is not completely clean, then it's really trash. But people have this conception that it's a plastic water bottle or it's a piece of steel. Well, can you recycle steel? Yes, but not on a curbside program. So the problem is that there's a lot of contamination but Mendon is much better than a lot of the other communities because it is, sauce separated, and it's dumped. 1 week is paper, 1 week is bottles and cans. The paper and the cardboard is excellent. The bottles and cans are really the issues because it's just, people tend to think because it's plastic or it's a bottle or it's got soda left in it that it's okay to just throw it in. And the plastic food trays that you get from a lot of, if you get food to go, all that food waste needs to go as trash. Pizza boxes. If it's completely clean, and very few of those come out as being clean, it's really trash. So what Phil can do is when he's there, he's got the trash and recycling. So if you've got pizza box around on the paper, he can literally throw it away because he's got the ability to be able to throw it. So he can keep Mendon's product much cleaner. But some of the stuff that, once you throw that bin in, and with the amount of customers he's doing, once you're picking those up and throwing them in, and some of them use barrels, so it's a little harder to see what's in the barrel on the bottom. Once it hits the truck, you're not going in and taking it out. But it is a cleaner product than a lot of the other towns around here because of the way that we do it. We do commingling paper, so it is a much cleaner product. And especially having seen it firsthand, just the last week.
So when the recycling is contaminated, does it get thrown away as trash? And
It gets, so the line is enormous, so we have a state-of-the-art single-stream recycling facility over in, it's on the Hopkinton side. So there is a line of sorters, so it gets dumped in the pile, gets loaded onto the line, the glass gets pulled out first thing, and then it goes up the conveyor belt line, where if people see anything contaminated or it's trash, plastic bags are a big issue right now. People seem to think that they put the plastic, tie it up in a plastic bag, and that's the worst thing we can do for recycling right now, because those plastic bags are what we call tanglers. Somebody's got a garden hose, one of the residents threw the garden hose in the recycling, because they think it's recycling, right? Because it's at some place the way it forms. Styrofoam's a big problem. A lot of people, leave the styrofoam in the recycling. So it's just, it's education. We're gonna just have to work.
To be clear, styrofoam is recyclable, but not by the program.
Not curbside. You can't do it curbside.
Really?
Yeah, you can't, I mean, it's very expensive, very expensive. There was a plant in Auburn, Massachusetts that opened up, and the guy was taking like all your Best Buy, your refrigerators, everything to come in. So he'd take the cardboard and the styrofoam. I don't think he made it a year. Basically anything can be recycled. The best way to handle plastic bags and any kind of saran wrap is bring them back to the point of use. Like a supermarket's all recycle them, CVS, those are all recyclable, but they have to be kept separate. And then they bale those and they ship them off, and they can be. But on a curbside program, they just contaminate everything when we're trying to
Shopping bags that go back to a grocery store actually are recyclable.
100%. 100%. And
Not reused, recycled.
recycle. And the same thing with the saran wrap, like if you use saran wrap, because you use that for your plates and stuff like that, if that's clean and you crinkle that back up, you put that in a bag, bring it back to CVS, a lot of your polymer films that you can open up, the bags that are the puffy stuff, that can all be recycled. Not on the curbside program, but if you bring it back to like a CVS or a supermarket, they bale that special, it's kept separate, and then a company comes in and takes them. And like anything else, you can recycle just about anything, just not curbside, and it's really got to be clean and separated to make it work.
A question that's probably going to be posed, or maybe people at home, why are those things not recyclable by curbside cost?
It's what we call a tangler. So the machines are kind of automated, so the plastic bags really kind of get caught up in the machinery, because the fingers try to separate everything. A lot of it is air driven, a lot of it is by focus. But what happens when that plastic bag hits the thing, it just gets wrapped around the conveyor belts, and that can shut a whole line down. So, yeah, same thing with the garden hose, and a lot of the kids, toys, the rigid plastic, which is what we call rigid plastic, a 5-gallon pail is considered rigid plastic. It's really not something, can we recycle it? Yes, it's really not a curbside program, but we do it. All the kids' toys, when you can do them, but there's a cost associated with it, and it's really not designed to be a curbside program. But like I say, there's very little that can't be recycled nowadays, but it's just not on a curbside program. And Mendon's really doing it right with doing the sauce separated by the paper and the cardboard and the bottles and cans. So it's the cleanest product we're going to get out of the market today.
Thank you.
We're talking cans, bottles,
Yep.
plastic,
Yeah.
plastic containers for food.
Yep.
Clean though,
Yep.
no
Clean.
styrofoam.
No styrofoam.
And no pizza boxes.
That's right. And the way it's separated is 1 week we pick up paper and cardboard, and then next week we pick up all the glass, plastic, and
Yep.
cans. So that is by far the cleanest way to do it, because it's easy to look at. Because Phil looks at every container, and if it's trash, he'll dump it right on the trash side, because he's got that ability.
I know. You know what? My recycling will be cleaner now, because I was probably the biggest offender. I throw everything in the plastic one.
And everybody does.
What's your address?
It's
Seriously,
because
I
we
didn't know.
think we're doing the
I'm
right
glad,
thing.
I'm glad. I'll do better to help you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I
That's
can't. I probably shut your line down a couple times.
Quick numbers off the top of your head, would you by any chance happen to know roughly how much weight we're keeping out of the trash bill by doing our recycling? Because it's all, we get charged up at Wheeler Breda
Yep.
by the ton
Yep.
for everything that's thrown away.
Right.
And by doing the recycling, we're saving the
Reducing
town
it to
money.
I do not, I can send it to Missy tomorrow. I do have the numbers, but I didn't look it up. I apologize. I did not look that up.
Any questions from the audience for Yale Harry? All right, Mike, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Great night.
Much appreciated.
Our next issue is the subject, a very sore subject, the triple E mosquito issue. The way that we were notified that there is an issue. Mendon is on the critical list as far as the triple E virus. The way that we were notified was the state was called in when a horse was contracted the disease in Mendon, and with equine, it's 100% fatality. There is no saves in the animals. It mimics rabies. The horse became very aggressive, and without getting into the particulars, the horse had to be euthanized. The process was taken, and they found that the horse was positive for triple E. The state the DPH has been in the town, all over the town, checking rural pools, all kinds of sites. They look for the triple E virus because they go by a historical, what they found in the past. And that's when they found quite a few spots in Mendon that are infected with the mosquitoes, are infected with triple E virus. As a result, the state of Massachusetts took over, and Mendon Board of Health had no control over the spraying that was recently done. We've been kept informed about what the state is doing, and the spraying was completed last night. At this point, it's just a matter, it's not 100% eradication of the mosquitoes when they do spray. There were mosquitoes out this morning. There's been a lot of concern about the chemical that was used as far as bees dying. This is in the name of public health for the people. Does anybody have anything else to add, Tom?
No, I understand. I've been in Mendon a long time, 25 years now, and I've heard the voices from different groups of folks with regard to whether they're for some sort of application program to eradicate mosquitoes. Shouldn't say eradicate, but to control the risk that mosquitoes can bring versus what Mendon is about in its heart, which is agricultural. It's agricultural based. And those folks that are involved in those elements, farming, beekeeping, things of that nature, and the concerns they have for applying things like this and how it could possibly harm nature. Triple E is, I'd hate to be the person in the family whose son, daughter, husband, wife got triple E and then had to deal with the ramifications of that. Statistically, 1 in 3, some cases maybe half of those who get it in those risk ages, they die. It's serious. And the others could suffer permanent damage for the rest of their lives. So it's a tough balance, and we on the board understand that. And we try to balance that and weigh that. So, we're very much open. We try to consider all elements in the town, and ultimately we try to come to the best decision we can in deciding what we can do to help.
Do we have any questions from the audience? In the red?
Couple of things.
Could you please stand and identify yourself, address, please?
I'm Leah, I live at 29 Simon Street. It's kind of a large property. I'm organic. I have an organic company that comes and sprays my yard for fleas, mosquitoes, and ticks. I've never had a tick in my yard. We do have a few mosquitoes. But my main question, because I could go on forever about this, is just, are they done? Are we for sure that they're done? I have to cover gardens, I have to cover bees, I have to cover ponds, I have to cover all my veggies because I don't want my soil contaminated. Are we done? So I can just not do this anymore.
I just got off the phone with a gentleman from the Mass DPH, and he said, yes, they're done for this season until the frost takes over. Something to consider when you say you tarp your vegetables.
I know, it's a drop in the bucket. I know the mosquitoes hide under there, but I have raised beds that are 30 by 12.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 4 of them. I have special soil in there that can't be contaminated.
Right.
I don't care about the plants at this point. I just don't want my soil contaminated. It's a drop in the bucket. I live on Asylum Street. Anyone know where that is?
Mm-hmm.
There's miles. There's miles of woods. It's a drop in the bucket. Okay, so if we're done, I don't have to cover my bees anymore, I don't have to worry about that, I don't have to cover
According
my
to the
phones.
gentleman from DPH just half an hour ago, and yes, they are done for this season.
Okay, good, that's all I wanna know. I can say a zillion things, but that's all I wanna know.
Thank you. So, yes.
Hi, Jane Belleville. Okay, one thing I'd like to ask is, why wasn't the Agricultural Commission notified about this? We could have helped the person whose horse was euthanized. Was it vaccinated?
It was not.
Huh?
It was not.
It was not. And we could have found out why. There's there's cheaper medications than going to the vet. You can buy the stuff essentially over the counter and give it yourself.
As a vaccination?
Huh?
As a vaccination?
As the vaccination.
Okay.
And if they couldn't, one of us could have helped them. And why wasn't the barn, what is he,
It will affect that.
Max,
Yes.
notified? He wanted to know about it. You know, I've been on the Agricultural Commission,
Yeah.
so I get all the questions and I'm standing there going, I don't know who, I don't know where, I don't know why.
It's a very good point, and unfortunately, I do not have a good answer for you for that, but we will certainly address that. And I thank you very much for your input.
And also, our Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, their information, how shall I put it politely, is less than desirable. This is from the New Jersey Department of Animal. This explains more about EEE than you'd ever want to know, but it's much more informative and it's a much better basis of doing a lot of this stuff.
Have you, by any chance, as a representative for the Agricultural Commission, have you spoken to anybody from the Mass DPH about this, about your concerns about this? I know you're speaking to us now.
No, because the last time I spoke to the state vet about a problem, she said it wasn't in her best interest to do anything about it. It was another issue, but
I'm sorry for that. 1 second, yes, please.
Barbara Goki, 3 Tower Road, Mendon. Board of Health is great. I'm not here for any criticism. I'm here because I want it documented that I live up by Southwick, my property abuts Southwick, the town forest, which abuts Comia Woods. You're talking 500 acres minimum of raw land, okay? I have abundance of birds. I've boarded horses for years and years and years. As of Monday night, I have no problem with the trash. I put mine out the night before.
Excellent.
No problems. Put it out the night before, I come back up to the house, and the birds are everywhere. There was so many hummingbirds, I watched them for an hour. And I've had more bluebirds this year than ever. As of Tuesday morning, not a bird in sight. Not flying, not in the trees, not on the fencing, no honeybees on my clover. I am here to have this documented by the Board of Health. Today, and that was from dawn till dusk, the same today, not a bird in sight. I have hundreds normally. Absolutely no sign of anything.
Spraying for that area was not done until last evening.
Pardon, how do you?
Spraying for that area was not done until last evening.
I was there, they went over 12:41. That's when they went over and my dogs barked, right. So I don't know what happened Monday night, or where they sprayed, because I got different answers from different peoples. It definitely affected, in my opinion, having been there for 20 years, my property. Having boarded horses for all those years, it was as the owner of the property, it was mandatory that everybody did rabies, EEE, and West Nile virus. I'm not a huge vaccine person, but EEE, West Nile virus, rabies, yes, that might be something that the board might want to consider for Mendon. Poo-poo for the people that lost their horses, because I gave my own vaccines, it's not that expensive to do that, you
No,
know?
it's-
The good thing is with them
It's less than
losing
10
horses, is you know it's in that area. And, so when you go on the things, the pesticide, Samaritan, which has many, many names, okay? It kills the bees, that's a given fact. In the water, it kills the fish, that's a given fact. It's extremely toxic to the aquatic life. The EPA has not assessed the effects on cancer. However, Mount Sinai School of Medicine links it with breast cancer by its effect on the endocrine system, and it suppresses your immune system. So they do link it to breast cancer that way. The EPA has banned it. It's killed many, many cats in sprays and baths and everything else. They've banned it for cats. They haven't banned it for the dogs, even though it's killed lots of dogs. So when the government says, go have fun, you're safe, you're not safe. It's a toxic, toxic chemical.
How do they apply it to a dog or a cat? What is it used
In a
in?
tin
It comes in sprays, it comes in shampoos. I worked for a vet in Bellingham for 12 years.
To fight flea and ticks?
Yep.
Okay.
And so when they tell you that, you know, DEET and all that is safe for you, it is not safe for you. One of the things that they use, it'll still be in you. You spray yourself with it, 6 weekly washings, and that chemical will still be in your clothes. So, as I say, I think the Board of Health does a great job. I'm not here to criticize them. And it is a toxic chemical, and I just want it to be known that there has not been a sign of one bird on my property since Tuesday morning. Nothing.
Thank you.
I can kind of answer
I
that.
don't know if you report any of this to the state,
We'll be
Or not?
We are.
and I don't know if you've heard from anyone else, and I think it might be a good idea for the board to, we give our dogs rabies, and I know for a fact that rabies stays in your system and gives you a titer for 15 years. I know that from the vets, I know it from a nurse, because I have a friend whose horse couldn't have it anymore, and the vet makes her get a titer. 15 years later, the horse is still protected for rabies. So I think the board could consider making it mandatory that people give EEE and West Nile.
We can certainly address that with the Agricultural Commission. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
The thing about the birds is that it's 90% mortality rate with birds, and birds do get EEE.
That's where it's.
It affects the endocrine system, so the bird's eggs next year, more than likely, like before, will
No,
not
the
hatch out.
EEE part.
Huh?
EEE affects birds, especially crows, small sparrows, raptors, and it's 90% mortality rate. I haven't seen, Malcolm, my hawk, who visits my barn, he comes in and sits
Right.
there, and I haven't heard him, so,
No.
My question is this, that we all know that this thing is awful. I had a white suit on this
I
morning.
have an organic garden too, so
Yes,
much for
I
that.
put on a white suit and I took everything off and threw everything away. But my question is, we all know that. How do we stop it? We can't.
We can't, when the state
When
overrules
the
us down.
state takes over, that we had no say in it. All they did was keep us, and actually, they didn't keep us too
They
well
were not
informed.
good
We
at
had to reach out to
informing
them.
people. No, they were not good at all at giving people information.
I haven't let my dogs out, I take them out on leash, make them potty, and put them right back in.
I kept buckets of water to dip their feet in when they
Right.
came in the house. It's just awful.
I haven't gone out of the house except to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Me?
Yes.
I realize that, all this stuff is very, very important to you, but right now, there's a 6-year-old boy from Grafton fighting for his life in ICU up at UMass,
And I understand,
infected by EEE.
I understand that.
But,
So,
we have to, and believe me, I believe in organic stuff completely, but we also have to balance the good of the populace
Right.
versus
by
the
the
good of
state's
individuals.
own admission, spraying does not do much for EAAA. And when they spray on a cold night, like Monday night, we all know, I've been maple syrup for years, there's mosquitoes in February. The mosquitoes go in the woods.
Not in this area, no.
It doesn't kill them.
They didn't spray in this area, yes.
Just one thing, like, if, we can all be safe and take precautions, and that's the number one thing. I'm outside 12 hours a day. I wear long clothes, I'll put on an organic spray, I'll wear a hat, and when the mosquitoes come out, I go in. That's all we have to do. They've sprayed, guess what we still have to do? Put long clothes on, put some bug spray on. Go in when the mosquitoes come out. So if we're so worried about triple E, we've just got to protect ourselves.
Right, and you have to protect your pets, and you have
That's
to
the thing,
protect
I'm so
the
sorry that
kids.
somebody's infected. Don't get me wrong, but we all have to take precautions whether they spray or not. And that's how we fix this. There's no other way.
If I may.
I've had the privilege of being on all 3 properties from the people that have spoken. They're all very nice properties. I want to address Jane. I was in Charlton the morning that we had a conference call with the state. On my way back, you were the first person that I called because I know about your involvement in the town. I've learned everything I know about horses from you. So as things were evolving, all 3 of us were trying to reach out to different sources that we each knew personally to try to find some information that maybe we hadn't heard from the state, information that pertained to the town of Mendon. And you, in turn, reached out to 2 vets to try to find out some information, and you got back to me, and we were texting back and forth. So I think everybody, as this was becoming a severe alert, was trying the best they could to gather as much factual information as they possibly could and share it with people that would understand what they were being told. The state did the best they could. Like you said, unfortunately, and from your nursing background, sometimes the things that we do to try to curb an illness is just the best thing that we have. It's not necessarily what's best for everybody, but it's the best we have, so we use it until we learn better and until we get a better solution. And, you know, you're perfectly right. You know, we all have an obligation to try to protect ourselves by using whatever type of repellent we're comfortable using and clothing. I work outdoors for a living. When I wear short pants and go through the poison ivy, I'm taking a risk.
I don't get poison ivy, so.
So, you know, some people are gonna take that risk. They're gonna decide that whatever you can buy over the counter or the expense of taking care of your horses is too great and they don't want to investigate alternatives.
That's one thing I want to say is have them come to us. That's what we're there for.
Well, see, we're very fortunate that this is being, that this public forum is being televised and recorded. So hopefully the people that don't know that they can reach out to you, they're going to be able to reach out to you.
Excuse me 1 second, Al, does the Agricultural Commission have a website of their own?
No.
Is there one on the Mendon site?
No.
Yes.
Is there?
There's a board page. It's
Oh,
probably just the
a
minutes
board.
and agendas there.
Yeah, it's not information.
How do people find out how to get a hold of the Agricultural Commission?
They have their names and phone numbers there.
Yeah, they do
Oh,
have
on
some.
the town website?
Yes. Okay.
So, but if there is a space for you there, then we can post some information if you'd like. Let us know, we'll get you in touch with somebody that can help you get the stuff out there.
Yeah, well, Peter Hawks is the president or whatever you want to commandant.
Does anybody know
Chairman.
where they
Yes, sir.
sprayed Monday night?
But, yes. So Monday night was,
I looked at the map, but
so,
I believe they stopped early on Monday night when the temperature dropped, so the original plan had to be modified.
so.
right, they were gonna spray Sunday night and they did not.
So the flight pattern was out of Worcester, they got into the flight pattern and it was more of a northeasterly up, and when they were flying north, and then southwesterly back down.
So are you looking at that green map that they
Yeah.
put? Yeah, and they
So-
really haven't updated it since then.
They did, it's updated now.
Right,
So it's showing that it's completely done.
right, I saw that. So that's why it did affect my property.
That's right.
Hmm?
That's my opinion.
Right, they did that last night, but what they did Monday night, obviously, the birds and bees don't lie.
Yeah, but Monday night, they didn't even catch, Monday night, they only made it to the North Bridge and then,
I
west of
understand.
Uxbridge.
But I mean, as the crow flies, you know, and as the wind goes, as I say, the birds and bees don't lie. As of Monday morning, there was,
I will,
Tuesday morning, nothing on my property, nothing today, nothing since. So when they sprayed Monday night, it affected my property, according to the birds and the bees and the wildlife and the butterflies and all the things that live there. I have no bugs flying, I have no hummingbirds, no birds, no nothing.
As of, still today.
Still today.
I've got bumblebees all over my place.
Yep.
as do I.
And that's the way it goes.
Honestly, I was very shocked and surprised because I didn't let them know until you today. But I saw lots of bees, I saw lots of bumbles, I saw my girls, my honeybees. But I also saw lots of little pollinators too. I actually saw 2 butterflies, and that was just in a 10-foot area. So I don't want any pesticides, don't get me wrong. And I was a little shocked and surprised too. And I'm a bird feeder. I put my hummingbird feeders out this morning. They were hummingbirds, put my bird feeders out this morning. And the usual gathering birds are there. So I was shocked and surprised, honestly, that there wasn't some more carnage. The frogs in my pond looked okay because I covered it and stuff, but I'm sorry. Maybe they're moving on for the season.
I don't know if it's because
I'm
I'm high up.
on Blackstone Street, and I had all my bluebirds, my cardinals, both the male and the female, all the doves, all my birds were
I
there.
was kind of shocked.
Yeah. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying it's hit or miss, I guess. I don't know. Sorry for what you're going through.
As I say, because of where I live, there's usually hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birds.
Not that you guys
More
want to hear
birds
this,
this
but
field than ever.
mosquitoes are the best pollinators. I hate
With
mosquitoes.
us this evening is Ian from the VNA. Ian, from your point of view, do you have any thoughts on, do you know of anybody that has Triple-E, or could you help us to understand the effects of Triple-E on the human world?
Well, with Triple-E virus, the incubation period from the time that you're infected to you actually exhibit symptoms is 4 to 10 days. It ranges for every individual. Younger, they say, are more at risk. And what I'm speaking to is you can find all this information on the CDC and the Mass Department of Public Health. It ranges, it's really dependent on the recipient who's infected and what's going on. Do they have comorbid issues going on? Is there underlying disease already that they're going to be affected, which causes more of an exacerbation of the symptoms? Some people are not symptomatic at all. We call it asymptomatic. Some, and it depends whether it's systemic or it affects your central nervous system. So there's 2 different ways that you can exhibit those. Thank you.
I've been dealing with the toxicity of mosquitoes for 50 years, starting with heartworm in the dogs, you know? So it's a yearly thing, everything's cyclical. Some years are gonna be worse than others, and people need to be aware. I'm aware every spring weather-wise, it's a little different.
Well, this was a very wet winter and very wet spring. It lended itself to.
It's also been very wet in the last few weeks too,
Yes,
so.
Gary, no, this is College Road. We actually saw a dead bird on our driveway a couple of days ago, so perhaps it's from Upton Spray. I've worked for a non-profit agricultural organization for a number of years, almost 6 years, so I'm going to come from that perspective.
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
Sure. My 2 points are under the umbrellas of full disclosure and informed consent. And I've also had experience firsthand with alternative medicine. And it's my understanding that the young and the old, people with weakened immune systems, are the ones that are most at risk. And when you look at the data, it's people in their 50s. So when I say full disclosure, are these people with something already fostering in their system? There isn't enough information, I think, to warrant such a side use, whether it's pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, suicide, they all mean death. And So in terms of full disclosure, you know, has anyone looked at the natural predators of mosquitoes? What are the bat levels? So that would be interesting to know. And I've also had experience in manufacturing and been trained by the American Society for Quality, and one of the tools to use to get information is ask 5 whys. You know, just keep asking why, and it's about 5 times to get the answer. So why is the bat population down?
White nose disease.
White nose disease, what does that come from? Stuff that they sprayed for the bees. So there's an interesting rabbit hole, if you will, so to speak. And it comes back to the environment speaking. And that's from the perspective of which I'm trying to address this forum. So the question is, what are the natural predators besides dragonflies and bats? Is there something else that we can, besides being negative with a side, is there something that we can be positive with to promote biological diversity, promote biological systems that would help keep things more in balance? Now, granted, if that's a weakened immune system person who doesn't care what they eat, doesn't care what they put on their skin, doesn't care what they put in their body, well, that person just impacted me directly, because I had to go to the vet this morning with my dog because he got stung by a dying bald-faced hornet on the ground, and thank God I wasn't barefoot because I didn't even see it. And so that's what brought me here. So I knew of the spray because of the dead insects on our driveway, which I've taken pictures and forwarded to Missy. But anyways, and then informed consent. It's one thing about sharing information, but no, I don't consent. Because we haven't looked at, in my opinion, no one here, I don't think, and maybe this isn't the proper form, maybe it's the Agricultural Commission, maybe some in the state, but what are the bat levels? And if it is that white nose disease, which is a fungus, why are they getting it? And what are we doing to address it? Those are the things I want to share, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Just one more point, to your point too, I'm organic. I don't have bug problems on my property. When things are in balance, you never have those problems. And so now we're spraying things.
Right.
That's completely gonna throw things off.
But what they've sprayed now is
if
gonna
we were-
affect us for the next
if we
10
could
years.
all-
She's talking.
If we could all think a little bit more in that vein of being organic as a town, we could actually work towards solving a lot of these problems. And you're right, we didn't have a choice. We all got sprayed. That's the most powerless feeling. It's your worst nightmare. When somebody's dropping chemicals on you and
Right.
you didn't want it and you
Yep.
had no control over it. And that was probably the least safe I've ever felt in my house.
Has anybody, with all your feelings, and I understand every one of them, has anybody written or by email or anything to the state expressing your concerns
How do you do that?
on the state website?
On the,
Talk to
well, you
Ryan.
said no, there's a website, there's a link on the,
I've been on the website, yeah.
there's a link to,
Contact them.
there's I don't, the name eludes me now, but there is a link to email somebody, I mean,
I got a lot of voicemails this week, I will say, when I called the state and tried to.
On the
talk.
Megan website, I don't see anything beneficial to integrating younger people to what should be done as far as, I didn't find anything like that, as far as standing water on your property and what you can do to prevent it, other than going buying a can of off or something. That's all you hear on the radio, where there's lots of alternative things that could be promoted so that younger people would understand that. Kind of like leaving your kids in the car. Now,
Yes, sir.
the dealerships are gonna have to make it so you can't leave your kids in the car.
Yes, sir.
Do we know the name of the chemical used?
Anvil 1010,
10 plus 10.
10 plus 10. I'm-
Anvil, like a hammer and anvil?
Anvil.
There is a much longer name for it.
if you go on the Mendon website, there's a link to the manufacturer and the MSDS and all that stuff, just to save you some searching.
It's not that great. It's better than DDT, but, which was supposedly safe when they dumped that on us too.
Right, I think it's still in the soil over here.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'd like to say that in general, I like to believe we're getting better at this. The Board of Health just sponsored Hazardous Waste Day. I don't know if anybody in the audience participated.
No, I missed it.
But you'd be surprised at how many chemicals that we keep in our house. And it was a very expensive day for the town, but we had a very good turnout. And we took all those chemicals, oil, antifreeze, old pesticides, and we were able to dispose of them correctly. So over time, we're getting better at this. I urge everyone in the audience to get involved somehow and share your personal information and experience with maybe a group and help educate others.
I'm totally for doing that. Anyone who wants to learn how to do it the right way can come to me. I'm more than happy to educate people. Ask any new neighbor that moves in.
Well, you know, reach out to the agricultural committee. That would probably come under that umbrella.
I spoke to them too, yeah.
And, you know, there's no reason that you can't develop some programming. Now, I know it was mentioned somewhere, I heard someone was mentioning, you know, the younger group of people that, you know, are students that are in schools. Maybe you guys could develop, you know, collaboratively, some sort of a program that could be, you know, integrated in the sciences that are taught in school. I know when we talk about recycling in our meetings and trying to get better at recycling, we know that the younger generation, because they're brought up with it and it's normal for them to recycle things, they're gonna do a better job at it. So there's hope by teaching the youngest, you know, the younger part of our population and making it normal for them to do these things, whether it's organic gardening or, you know, not fearing a bat, but knowing that they help us.
Organic sprays.
Being able to, you know, handle, you know, not always call a vet to take care of your dog or your cat or your horses, but this information has to be shared. So, you know, get together as a group and try. I mean, volunteer. It's a great feeling when you're able to develop something and it comes to fruition and then you can see the effects of it. It takes time, but you got to jump in.
Yeah, the Ag Commission.
Yes, Mr. O'Brien.
Listen.
This last part of your discussion is very informative, and I would make a recommendation of touching base with Steve Saraceno at the cable station, and why not do 15-minute segments of one subject, and they just run it all the time, and then you do another subject and another subject, and physically you're informing everybody, and that way you can do it any time of the day and night when they play it. You know, that could be really cool.
What about
Great suggestion.
On the webpage, on the town's webpage?
We'll put it in the paper every spring, like in March, that online, we're
Yeah.
gonna give you
Well,
this information.
Why not? The crier is usually very open to those things, and that gets mailed to every resident's home.
Right,
So that's a great way, a great tool that's available to getting the word out. It takes time, but, you know, the first time if you capture a certain percentage, the next time you capture a bigger percentage, they tell their
they
friends.
tell someone else.
Just like you know, you try to help your neighbors, Jane tries to help other people in town that have horses. Over time, you'll get to everybody.
A point that I learned this week from the DPH epidemiology guys. If a horse or a human gets bit by a mosquito that is positive for Triple E, as Ann stated, the gestation period is between 4 and 10 days. So we'll say at 7 days, a clean mosquito comes by and bites that horse, human, or rhinos, from what I hear, have very similar systems to horses. Pigs, goats, they're very close to the horses. If a clean mosquito comes by and bites the infected animal, they cannot get Triple E. It comes from the birds, 100% from the birds. Just a point that I found interesting. I didn't know if anybody was aware. Apparently everybody's aware of it. Okay, I was.
No, I didn't know that.
No, didn't know.
And they had it
I
on
didn't know, I
the
just
news,
thought it
so
was-
not everybody dies from EEE. Some people, they said like 80% of the people think they're sick or have the flu. So a lot of it
That's how it
depends.
presents.
Huh?
That's the
That was on,
presentation.
that was on the news, yeah. And so
Again,
it-
it just depends on
some of it has to do with any illness in your own immune system, and it affects everybody differently.
And not everybody's immune system is because they haven't taken care of themselves.
Exactly. There's birth defects that we cannot control.
Well, there's a lot of.
A lot of health issues. Yeah. Any other questions or statements? Dan?
I will be in touch and let you know if the birds come back.
Please.
Yeah.
I guess, so my question is somewhat twofold. First, I guess, from the festival committee, you know, we did decide to postpone the event after talking to everybody. There's talk of a new date for this event. I guess, are there any feedback as to the effectiveness of the spraying? Are we still looking at restricting events at night going into September, October? Is that something we're going to know right now? Or?
It will take a couple of days, but the state is still in town every day checking these sites that are tested positive. For a couple of reasons, they do not disclose where those sites are. I found one of them kind of interesting. What Mayor just told us a little while ago, that if they disclose the sites where they're doing the testing and they have these traps set out, people go there. Morbid fascination, they go there and get in the way. Anyways, the state is going to be in town for the next few weeks until the first frost, checking, first of all, effectiveness of the spray, or is it still, are we still in critical? They want to very, very much so, as much as we all do, reduce the risk factor from critical to hopefully not.
So I guess to follow, so the current recommendation from this board is that the restrictions should be in place. People should continue to
For a short time,
be safe.
a while longer, yes.
Use bug spray all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just,
People should know what areas to avoid. EEE isn't going to go away.
The spray does not fight Triple E. The spray is to kill mosquitoes that are the carriers of the disease.
And it doesn't do a very good job.
just on a note, on that note, when we were in that meeting the other day, the very first day, then when we were trying to find a date that we could postpone the amended Fest to, when we did ask towards the end of September being the date that's possible.
September 28th.
September 28th being the date that, that the committee's looking at, or the festival committee's looking at. They said by that time, that deep into the fall, or just the start of fall, that the temperatures will be low enough that we're not gonna see the mosquitoes coming out, so you're not going to be subjected to getting bit as endangered as you were if it's 70 degrees out at dusk right now. So I'll say that's kind of why that date was picked.
Right. I guess my other question from Parks' perspective, is this, again, I don't know if you're the right people to ask, is this a trend we're going to see continue? I know from Parks, I think we need to start looking at possibly having park facilities treated for mosquitoes, because it sounds like, I guess my understanding is the state does nothing unless they come in an emergency. So right now, we are...
No, that's not true. They are in town.
No, for spraying, sorry.
As far as spraying, yes.
So it's on each property.
They're testing certain sites in town that historically show that there is an issue. And there was issues last year.
Right.
We didn't hit critical, but there was issues last year and there was issues the year before. There was Triple E in town.
Yeah. I know from Parks' perspective, I think that's something we're going to need to explore. And I don't know if there's interest. I know there's been talk of potentially looking at the mosquito control program, whether that's too far or, what people might be interested in.
The first case of AAA was in 1837. And usually we see an outbreak maybe every 5 to 6 years, and that's it. This was our year. And
It's cyclomatic.
Huh?
It's cyclomatic.
They really haven't decided whether it's cyclo, but they, it depends on how wet it's been.
And this spring was very wet.
The winter was wet. I was in mud up to my knees in the barn.
The last documented case was 2013, I believe, in Massachusetts.
Yes, it was a while. Henry, do you have a question?
No.
All right. Good information. Thank you very much to everybody for coming in. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I